fantastic. But we are going to kick off with our very special event. This is going to be a real treat. It's a treat for me. I know that you're also going to love it. It's going to give you so much confidence, so much information. It's really going to, you know, we always say that knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power, but not only knowledge is power when you use it. When you use it to actually take action, and when you use it to do something good. Now, for me, I don't have a background in health, but over the last 13 years, my involvement with Max International has made me very, very passionate about health and about what we have in particular in our science, which you're going to hear more about. I'm originally from Canada. I've been living in Ghana, then Nigeria for the last 8 years. I'm now relocating to Kenya as our company, Max International, opens up in Kenya and East Africa. We're in over 20 countries around the world. And tonight's program is really all about the very special nature of our science. You know, so many people ask me, well, Anne, what's different about Max International? We've seen supplements, we've seen companies come and go. Why is Max International different? And tonight you are going to hear why Max International is different, why this is a company you should pay attention to, no matter what part of the world you're in. We're a US company, but we're in over 20 countries around the world officially, and unofficially, we are in so many more countries. And so, again, knowledge is only power if you act on it, if you use it to make your life better, to make the lives of people around you better. And I know that tonight you are going to learn something that is going to give you a lot of power if only you choose to use it. And so I am going to introduce our special guest, and I'm really, really excited to introduce him because this is a man who I really love. He has been such a godsend, really, to this generation. He has contributed so much to humanity, so much to knowledge, so much to medicine, and so much to Max International globally. Now, he is a medical professor who's been practicing medicine for over 35 years. He is a fellow of the American College of Endocrinology and 5 other medical fellowships. I mean, those are credentials, really. He's a professor of anatomy. He's published over 120 scientific papers, and he is the pioneer executive director of the University of Lagos Business School. So not only does he have almost every medical credential you can find, but he is a businessman as well. He has a mind for business. He's a professor of business. He is just an incredible man overall. I'm very proud to call him my friend. I'm honored to call him my partner. And I'm especially pleased and privileged to introduce him to you tonight. So Prof, over to you and welcome.
Oh, good evening, Anne, and good evening, our guests. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the introduction. Well, let me upload my slides. Okay. Let me share. Okay. If you can see my slides, kindly type yes or Y. If you can see my slide now to ensure that you are, and you can also hear me wherever you are. Good evening, good afternoon, and perhaps good morning as well. Okay. Okay, you can see my slides now.
No, Prof, we can only see your screen. You just have to get your slides up. Yes, there we are. Perfect.
Oh,
excellent.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk on the role of intracellular glutathione in health and disease. Let me first of all start that I'm really very excited. One of the things I treasure most in life and I enjoy most is in sharing my knowledge. So I'm going to be talking to you about a couple of research experiments I've carried out in the last 20 to 35 years or thereabout. And of course, I'm going to quote profusely other colleagues too. I will be in some places. I will try as much as possible not to be highly too scientific, and in certain places I will be highly scientific. So get ready and be ready also to ask your questions at the end of my presentation. So once again, I welcome you. Let's go on. So I will follow this introduction. I will follow this outline, going from introduction to diseases, to cells, to the greatest threats to humans, then all the way down to glutathione and other antioxidants. And I'm going to mention briefly, in general, how glutathione, especially the intracellular form of glutathione, has bearing on your health and on diseases generally. Then I will talk about a couple of diseases, but I will cone down eventually on one or two today, majorly diabetes and obesity, and a little bit on cancers generally. Then I will conclude. Let's look at this. Some of these data are scary. You know, they can be scary in nature. For example, about 60 million people will die annually. About 17 million will die of cardiovascular diseases. The more recent data actually are telling us that there is already an upsurge in that. For example, cancer jumped all the way from 8.5 million 2 years ago to 10 million as at last year. Annually will die. Diabetes will claim about 1.5 million. And unfortunately, the brunt of the diabetes especially, and most of the others are actually coming from Africa. Okay. The good news is that over 50% of all these are preventable. Some of my other colleagues have quoted as high as 70, 75, 80% that are preventable. And that's the good news. Okay. But let's look at this data coming from the UK. So previously, it was calculated that 1 person in 3 would develop cancer at some point during life. As if that was not bad enough, more recent data are now telling us that no, it is actually 1 in 2. That's why I said some of these data can be scary in nature. But there is light, not just at the end of the tunnel, but right inside the tunnel as we go on. But let's look at first, every being develops from 1 single cell, eventually coming into 2-cell stage, 4-cell stage, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, those cells are distributed into various tissues, forming various systems, then forming the whole human being as a whole. We have now found out that there are over 250 different cell types in the human body, making over 70 trillion cells in the human body. But guess what? Every single cell in your body, over 70 trillion of them, they need glutathione to survive. They need glutathione to function effectively. They need glutathione to function efficiently, but they need glutathione to procreate. They need glutathione to replenish themselves, because as time goes on, by the way, every cell in your body has an expiration date. Anyway, that is why people die. Human beings actually have expiration date. So every cell in your body actually have expiration date. So they need to be constantly replenished. And that is why billions of cells are produced every day. We've found out as well that in the process of cells procreating, reproducing themselves, replenishing, replacing themselves, they need one molecule that must be in the nucleus. As a matter of fact, before every cell division, we have found out there is recruiting exercise of glutathione molecules. Without adequate amount of glutathione inside your nucleus, you cannot replicate. You cannot reproduce yourself. It is amazing. But let's, a little bit of digression. I've said it over and over, and I've not changed, that the greatest threat to human existence are free radicals. And I will tell you as time goes on. A free radical is any molecule, especially in the outermost shell, not always, especially in the atmosphere, has an unpaired electrons. And this means that they are usually very reactive, you know. And in 2004, we published this from my work. We are looking at the effects of quinine and ascorbic acid, and we estimated malondihyde. Malondihyde is one of the simplest and easiest way to monitor the effect of free radicals, because usually the free radicals, they damage the cells, and then they let cells undergo what we call lipid peroxidation. And you can monitor this lipid peroxidation through the action of malondihyde, which we actually did way back in 2004. And in 2007, we also monitored again, you know, the other antioxidants, okay, especially ascorbic acid, and saying, okay, can we look at the derangement that free radicals cause in the rat testes, and see whether we could ameliorate this using ascorbic acid. And we did that again, and we published in 2007. This is a normal cell on my extreme left, and on my extreme right is a cell that has been attacked by a free radical. Of course, this is a cell that has been attacked by a free radical can never function effectively, just like the normal cell. Why am I bringing this man here? This emeritus professor of biochemistry in Berkeley University in California. He has already done part of the work for us way back. He monitored that every single cell, and listen, every single cell in your body in one single day is hit by a free radical by a minimum of 10,000 times. Now you have 70 trillions of cells. Now multiply by 10,000. So you can imagine the enormous nature of what free radicals are doing in the human body. If one single cell is hit by a minimum of 10,000 times, okay, by a free radical, okay. But you see, it is not just about snatching the electron that is the only thing that is important about free radical damage. When is a free radical wants to obtain forcefully an electron from a structure, it may not succeed in actually pulling off an electron, but because of the sheer force, the sheer nature of the pressure that is applied to the molecule, if it's a protein, for example, there is a change in structure, what we call the conformational restructuring of a protein. Of course, usually what happens is that that protein molecule is actually unfolded. An unfolded molecule, of course, can never perform the same function. So even if electrons were not stolen, electrons were not pulled out, the pressure alone is enough to cause some conformational changes that will inactivate or make such proteins work suboptimally. And we see that a lot, you know, in reality. Again, we published this, my team published this way back in 2009, looking at the cell cycle. Okay, it has, even before us, we knew already that before this is cells going to cell cycle, going through the interphase and then to mitosis, division. Okay, before this synthesis phase, there is, of course, there are checkpoint proteins almost everywhere, especially before the synthesis phase, and that is before the genes are replicated. So it means what these checkpoint proteins, what they do is actually to ensure that every DNA that is going to be replicated is assured of proper replication. It has not been damaged, especially by radiation or free radical, so they are stopped here. If they escape here, there's another set of checkpoint proteins before this phase. Okay, if they escape the earth again, and sometimes that happens, then unfortunately, bad as it were, in quotes, DNA is replicated, and the consequences can be grievous. Sometimes unexplained abortion can come. Sometimes the fetus can develop, and then there can be structural or biochemical abnormalities, and there can also be development of cancer. We have now discovered something else apart from the checkpoint proteins. Okay, and here is this. We have also discovered that if free radicals actually attack DNA, and those free radicals that have attacked the DNA would cause some changes in the DNA that will promote the development of cancer cells in the product of such replication. Again, data coming recently have clearly shown us that the telomeres are actually the tail ends of the chromosomes. As we age, the telomeres become reduced in nature. And we have discovered that this is one of the effects of aging. So you can actually monitor people's aging by looking at the length of the telomeres. So as you grow older, your telomeres become shorter, your lifespan is getting smaller. We have not discovered one major thing, is that free radicals continue to damage the telomeres. And studies have also shown us that if you create a medium whereby you expose the telomeres to intracellular glutathione, you are actually going to ensure that free radicals do not damage the telomeres. Not only that, unlike other antioxidants that we may just protect, the telomeres, we have now also found that glutathione is actually able to ensure that telomeres are probably replenished. They can be replaced. They can be elongated. They can be managed using glutathione, and this will be the next phase of research, especially in aging. I said it jokingly somewhere, but it's actually not a joke, that a time is coming when people may want to only die by choice, because once we have the clue now to how we maintain the telomeres almost forever, if possible. Okay, but that's the story for another day. But let's look at the various causes of free radicals. I mean, all the way from metabolism in the human body, unhealthy diet, medication, and so on and so forth, environment, smokes everywhere, not just cigarette smoke now. We are talking about dangerous smokes from industries, efficiencies, from vehicles, from even smokes, in quote, radiation now, from cell phone, from X-ray, from mast, high tension cables. The world is grossly polluted, and that is the truth. And at the center of all this, taking the most of the grievous effects of all this conglomeration of hazard effects is actually the DNA damage that is so serious. It's at the center. I'm being bombarded from left and right. Of course, the consequences, as some of them have enumerated earlier, damage to unfortunately, if a damaged DNA is perchance replicated, the consequences can be grievous, which I'm going to mention. But let's look at this. Over 80,000 chemicals are have been synthesized already. But where I'm going now is that some of them, of course, have been tested for toxicity. But guess what? Less than 10%, yes, less than 10 has been tested for developmental toxicity. Even less than this 10% again, less than this number has actually been tested again for genomic toxicity. So, I mean, very, very few of these chemicals have been tested. So, and the numbers are increasing on daily basis. And that is why many of us are not surprised that the incidence of cancer is actually on the rise. That jump from, for example, death from cancer, like I said earlier, jumped all the way from 8.5 million 2 years ago. As we speak now, over 10 million people will die of cancer every year. So, I mean, thank God. God has given us endogenous antioxidant to help us manage this. We have glutathione as number one, alpha lipoic acid, coenzyme Q. There are so many of them. When you now compare glutathione with vitamin C, there are over 150,000 medical articles on PubMed on glutathione alone. While vitamin C, as common as it is, has just about 50,000 articles. This underscoring the importance of glutathione. In year 2017, when I did my inaugural lecture, I published 21-point action plan as a recipe to perfect health. If you look all the way down on the 20, in no particular order, it's not in orders of importance. But if you look at number 20, I put glutathione. This is available actually online. Just Google the name Abraham Shinobi. You will find it online on YouTube. Under the University of Lagos or website. But let's quickly, again, in 2016, I got all this together in terms of glutathione as the most powerful antioxidant, the only antioxidant that replenishes itself, the only antioxidant that recycles itself, the only antioxidant that helps other antioxidants get converted to their own reduced state, the mother of all antioxidants, the gatekeeper of the human body, the most important molecule in the human body necessary for perfect health, and the great protector of the cells, the superhero of all antioxidants. Now, let's look at this. I will try to simplify this, but I want to draw 2 or 3 points from here. Now, let's look at this. This is vitamin C here. This is vitamin E here. This is also vitamin C here. And this is the glutathione circle. Please, kindly follow me now. What I want to point out here is that, you see, vitamin E can never function effectively without vitamin C, because vitamin C helps convert oxidized vitamin E back to reduced vitamin E. And the reduced vitamin E is the functional one. Okay, when vitamin C helps convert vitamin E back to its normal self, do you know what vitamin C becomes? Vitamin C becomes dihydroascorbic acid. 2 things now, please. Unfortunately, dihydroascorbic acid is also a weak free radical. Yes, it's also a free radical. But however, in the presence of adequate glutathione, glutathione helps oxidize vitamin C, gets converted back to ascorbic acid in normal vitamin C. You know what this means? It means that if you are taking high dose of vitamin C in the absence of adequate amount of glutathione, you may be doing more damage than good, because you are going to be creating more free radicals. That's number one. The second thing I want to point out here is that, unfortunately, dihydroascorbic acid has similar structure to glucose. We have now found out that the glucose transporter 1, the glucose transporter 3, especially 1, actually have 1,000 times affinity for dihydroascorbic acid, okay, than glucose. Theoretically, the implication of this is that you may be giving vitamin C and then the blood glucose of that patient is going up, just because you have incapacitated, you have literally prevented the glucose transporter 1 from functioning. Instead of the glucose transporter 1 conveying the normal glucose it is used to conveying, but because it has greater affinity for dehydroascorbic acid. The guy will be conveying dehydroascorbic acid instead of conveying glucose. So those are very important things that we need to know here. Now let's look at, there are three major functions of glutathione apart from antioxidant. Don't let us be labeled as the immune system. Your immune system can never function effectively without glutathione. You can quote me. And several authors before me have said this. This is a paper published all the way in 2000 that has already confirmed that, look, the glutathione is a modulator of the immune system. Not only that, glutathione is actually essential for the functioning of the immune system cells. The third thing about glutathione is that because it is the most potent, it is the most powerful, it is the most abundant or intracellular glutathione, it is also an antitoxin in nature. Specifically, glutathione binds to a lot of, especially heavy metals, cadmium, mercury, lead, aluminum, binds to them and then makes them soluble so that this can be extracted, okay, either through the liver or through the kidney. Please, ladies and gentlemen, don't go home with the impression that free radicals are always bad. No. In fact, what your body needs is a balance between free radicals and antioxidants. As a matter of fact, there are many very important processes in your body that are pivoted on the presence of free radicals. So it is just a balance that we need. But unfortunately, because of the degradation of the environment, the urbanization of the world, technological advancement, a lot of activities of humans have generated so much free radicals in the human body that almost in every state you have an imbalance, meaning that you have more of the free radicals than more of the antioxidant system. Now, over 74 chronic diseases have been associated with low level of glutathione. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know of any chronic disease that has not been linked. I don't know of any. And you can Google as I speak. I don't know of any chronic disease that has not been linked with either low level of glutathione and high levels of free radicals in the human body. The list is almost endless. And some in the year 2018, I tried categorizing them into various compartments, but time will not allow me. But let's look at this. The problem in Parkinson's disease is that the dopaminergic neurons in the substantia nigra of the midbrain are destroyed. Okay, but guess what? Before we see visible histological features irradiating the development of both histological features and physical fatigue and the poverty of movement that we see in Parkinsonism is what? Low levels of glutathione is amazing in the substantia nigra. Again, Alzheimer. Okay, in fact, there are emerging efforts now that look that has started to try on patients or the response of glutathione, intracellular glutathione on Alzheimer's disease, and the responses have been encouraging. Again, autistic disorder spectrum has been associated with low level of glutathione, and there are efforts now as well to see how we can mitigate the effect of autism using intracellular glutathione. Like I said, I don't know of any chronic ailment that have not been associated with low levels of glutathione, ranging, for example, on effect of oxidative stress on both male and female infertility. But let me pause a little bit here. Why is it that the sperm cell is unusually prone to free radical damage? You need two major things as substrate for free radical damage. One is presence of oxygen. Number two is the polyunsaturated fatty acid. The middle piece of the sperm cell has a lot of mitochondria, meaning that there are a lot of cells there. Okay, and so where there's cell membranes, you have a lot of polyunsaturated fatty acid. So you have already this substrates for free radical damage, and this is the reason as well why the brain is unusually prone to free radical damage. Guess what? Brain is just 2% of the body weight, but it receives 20% of the oxygen in the human body. And we have billions of synapses in the brain, meaning that a lot of polyunsaturated fatty acid from synapses, from cell membranes are there. You have good oxygen supply, you have polyunsaturated fatty acid. Come on, those are the substrates for free radicals. So I'm not surprised that almost every brain ailment has been associated with low levels of glutathione. Again, the skin is unusually prone to free radical damage, destruction of the collagen fibers, for example, from free radicals. A lot of this can, and that is the reason why you find a lot of a lot of cosmetologists are actually using this product, for example, to help. Okay, now what most people have known is that when you have low levels of high density lipoprotein, there's a problem. Okay, but let me shock you now. You can have good levels, yes. In fact, high levels of high density lipoprotein, and that will be a problem. You know what is the problem? If it is oxidized. So it is not just good enough for you to have good levels of high density lipoprotein, low levels of low density lipoprotein. In fact, you may have high levels of low density lipoprotein without having a problem if they are not oxidized. The major problem, apart from the levels, is that whether these proteins are oxidized or not, and these have been documented as well. So, for example, in cardiovascular diseases, especially hypertension, the effect of intracellular glutathione has been well documented as represented in this paper. Again, this is another one on sickle cell disease. Normally, this in sickle cell disease patients, the red cell membrane is fragile. As a matter of fact, the red blood cells in normal people last about 120 days. But in sickle cell disease, the red blood cells actually have an lifespan of between 10 to 20 days. Studies have shown us that if you expose the red blood cells of sickle cell patients to adequate amount of glutathione, you may end up prolong the lifespan to about 40 days instead of the usual 10 to 20 days. It is amazing. And this has been documented as well in literature. As a matter of fact, there's already a phase 3 trial, of looking at how can we improve, the stability of the red cell membrane using intracellular glutathione. Okay, and this has been published as well in this paper. But look at this on the lens. You may wonder why. One of the slides I showed you, I wrote something like glaucoma, cataracts. There can be consequences of prolonged deprivation of low levels of glutathione. See, let me shock you. Generally in the human body, your body spends minimum of 6% of its ATP making glutathione. Look at the importance. But in the lens of the eye, it is different. In the eye, your body spends 11 to 12% of the whole ATP making glutathione. So glutathione is so important, so powerful for your lens. It is just amazing that, I mean, the whole lens, I mean, the whole of the energy, almost 12%. Okay, being spent on just to manufacture glutathione. Okay, telling you the importance of this wonderful product. But the bad news is that as we age, your glutathione level goes down. Am I surprised that as we age as well, your telomeres too, your telomeres get shorter and shorter. Okay, as you grow older, unfortunately, as you grow older as well, so by the time you are 50, you are 60, you would have lost over half of your glutathione level. Are you then surprised that oxidative stress is going up? And oxidative stress is going up, some dangerous chronic ailments are also climbing up that I've enumerated, many of them there. Okay, for example, it has been well documented that if you took the sickest of your patients, compare the glutathione level with those who are a little bit sick and those who are healthy, one major thing you will find between these three groups are the levels of glutathione. In the sickest of your patients, okay, you will find extremely poor levels of glutathione. While you will find low levels of glutathione in the sick patient, you will find almost very good levels of glutathione in the patients who are not ill. These have been well documented in literature as well. If glutathione is this important, okay, people should have said, I mean, let's take it orally. No, but I can tell you one thing, it's not going to work that way. The simple reason is that the GTT that we know as the glutamic transferase, gamma, okay, glutamic transferase, okay, sometimes we call it also transpeptidase, okay, we hydrolyze this glutathione and will not make it available in sufficient quantity. As a matter of fact, the hydrochloric acid within the stomach as well will destroy a lot of the glutathione. So what I'm saying in essence is that taking it orally, you will not give your cells the adequacy of glutathione that your cells actually need to work optimally, efficiently, and effectively. So this is not a good route to think about. Injectables, okay, good, but no, most doctors will not actually subscribe to giving injectable. The simple reason the half-life of glutathione is short, so you will need to be repeating and repeating it. And then, of course, if it is injectable, then it's obviously it means it is synthetic, and we are not too sure of the long-term effects of this, so it's not attractive. But let me tell you that glutathione, as a matter of fact, because it's good for you to know this history, glutathione was actually discovered way back in 1888, okay, by the French physician. By 1929, yes, Frederick Hobsons of the Cambridge University actually isolated glutathione for the first time from yeast. Then by 1935, yes, Harrington and Mead then synthesized glutathione, okay? So it means glutathione has already been synthesized, okay, from the laboratory in 1995 already. So then you now wonder why then did Dr. Nagasawa have to go to the laboratory to still be looking for the best way to get glutathione? For the simple reason that taking the synthetic one orally is not going to make glutathione to be bioavailable for yourself to be used because of the hydrolysis that would have happened because of the destruction of the sulfur hydride bond that would have happened in the cysteine because of the fragility, and that will not make yourself to receive adequate amounts of the molecules of glutathione. And that is why he had to go to the lab to search for the best way of saying, and eventually it came up with the solution, which I'm going to talk about later. So this is the study that has already been done way back. This should be okay. How long is this? In 2015, it was confirmed again what I've just told you, that the gamma glutamic transpeptidase or gamma glutamic transferases, okay, as we call them now, okay, they are capable of destroying the bond within the glutathione and making nonsense of oral ingestion. So no doctor will actually prescribe the oral ingestion of glutathione as at now. So again, so what do? The major components of glutathione are glutamic acid, cysteine, okay, and glycine. The cysteine amino acid is we now refer to cysteine as conditional essential amino acid. It is not essential, but it is, we call it the conditional, okay, amino, meaning that under stressful condition it will become essential. You need to take it in for the synthesis, especially of glutathione. Okay, if cysteine alone is taken, like I said earlier on, of course it is going to be damaged. Okay, you're not going to get it sufficient quantity. So what this guy is doing in the lab was to say, okay, let's protect cysteine, and eventually, after several trial and error that took over 25 years, eventually Dr. Nagasawa and his colleague eventually came up with ribose, and then ribose combined with cysteine, D-ribose L-cysteine, and then when D-ribose L-cysteine gets inside the cell, by simple hydrolysis, okay, there is separation of ribose and cysteine, okay, and then the ribose is not wasted, okay. Ribose is needed by the heart to function well. Ribose is needed by your muscles to function well. The cysteine is mobilized with glutamic acid and with glycine. Then you manufacture as much as possible glutathione. And why this is so significant, let me tell you one thing. The rate, please listen carefully, the rate of synthesis of glutathione is almost equal to the rate of degradation of glutathione. And that is why I just smile when I see people taking glutathione tablets, because it means that once it gets inside the body, if at all it gets, by the way, glutathione transporters have not been documented in literature that glutathione transporters will transport glutathione from outside the cell to inside the cell. So far, studies have continually shown us, and this have been documented in literature, that glutathione transporters transport glutathione from within the cell for exports. So when you are giving glutathione orally, what it means is that you are most likely wasting it. But what some chemists have done is to have a very high dose of glutathione and see whether it's going to force it inside the cell through a concentration gradient protocols. But because the rate of degradation and the rate of synthesis are about the same, so it means if you succeed in pushing glutathione molecule inside the cell, do you know what happens? You get a spike and then it goes down almost immediately. So it doesn't make any sense. So the best protocol is that you have a system that can continually mimic the natural process of synthesis of glutathione within the cell. And that is what ribosine, of course, does. And in 1987, the reason why I can't forget this year was the year I qualified as a young medical doctor from one of the best universities in the world. Okay, and in 1987, Dr. Nagasawa and his team published this work that compared ribosine with what was known then as NAC, N-acetylcysteine. Okay, it was found out that ribosine actually raised hepatic cells glutathione by 300% efficiency, better than NAC. And a lot of other authors have actually confirmed that. And that has shown in some of the work that follow because of time. But just look, then I will cone down on this, then I will stop a little bit. But let me, for the sake of diabetes, I am passionate about diabetes because I've not just because I'm a member of the Endocrine Society of Nigeria, but because I've been an official of this organization for several years. So, but let's look at what happens in diabetes, for example. The major thing in diabetes is that we have glucose transporter 1 and glucose transporter 4. Majorly, there are so many transporters that we have found now. But however, in skeletal muscles, the skeletal muscles use a lot of glucose, most of the glucose in the human body anyway, than any other tissue. Okay, and in those tissues, we have found 2 major glucose transporters. But before then, please let me pause here. Let me tell you a little bit how insulin works. Insulin works by what we call protein-protein receptor interaction. When you give insulin, when you stimulate insulin, insulin will act on membrane receptors. That membrane receptor will undergo some conformational changes that will activate a lot of processes within the cells. 2 things can happen. There is one way for intermediary metabolism. There's another way for growth and development. And this is why it is so important. But luckily, as God will make it happen, you need a lower dose, okay, of insulin to stimulate intermediary metabolism than the dose that will generate more cells or hypertrophy in the human body. And this is why it is so important. This is why very high doses, chronic use of insulin of high doses have been implicated or hyperglycemia have been implicated, okay, with more incidences of some cancers in the human body. So now let's go back to this. So that's how insulin works. But insulin does not work in isolation. It works in conjunction with the glucose transporters. You see, glucose transporter 1, I told you about glucose transporter 1 earlier, that glucose transporter 1 is naturally made to transport glucose. But when you have dehydroascorbic acid, glucose transporter 1 has greater affinity for dehydroascorbic acid than glucose. So if you have a lot of, theoretically now, if you have a lot of oxidized, okay, vitamin C, instead of your glucose transporter 1 transporting glucose, may actually be transporting dehydroascorbic acid. But that's not the major issue. The major issue here is that the glucose transporter 4 is more in abundance and is within the cell cytosol. For it to open the channel and allow glucose to come in, okay, it needs to be translocated from the cytosol, from inside the cell, to the cell membrane, okay, so that glucose can come in. This translocalization is usually in response to exercise, low oxygen level, and insulin. Something's going to happen now. But see, yeah, that we have now found out that for the glucose transporter 4, for it to function effectively, for it to move from the cytosol and get attached to the cell membrane and allow glucose to come in, it is based on the presence of glutathione intracellularly. Ladies and gentlemen, low level of glutathione will result in reduced or zero glucose transporter 4 response to insulin. So you may be flogging your patient with insulin. You are not getting response. It may be because glucose transporter 4 is not responding, because the glutathione is not adequate to ensure translocalization. Second shocker. Insulin molecules are made within vesicles. These vesicles must open to allow insulin to work. Guess what again? The exocytosis of these vesicles, the breaking of this vesicle to allow insulin to come out is based on the presence of intracellular glutathione. So you can see all the processes that are involved in glutathione intracellularly, especially in terms of diabetes. So it means that if you don't have adequate amount of glutathione, you may. This, I will try to simplify this slide, which we showed our colleagues at the endocrine meeting 2 days ago, 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, okay, in Lagos. You see, this is telling us, I'm going to try to simplify it. This is glutathione here. This is glutathione peroxidase. Glutathione peroxidase actually helps cardiolipin. Cardiolipin is the protein that stabilizes the internal membrane of the mitochondria. Mitochondria, of course, as you know, is the powerhouse of the body. I mean, a lot of the energy actually comes from the mitochondria. The cardiolipin protein protects the mitochondria from oxidative damage because the electron transport chain is not 100% efficient. So there are always times when free radicals are generated, and they are easily scavenged, okay, by the presence of GSH, reduced glutathione, through the enzyme glutathione peroxidase. In the absence or in the reduction of glutathione, okay, peroxidase cannot act. So there is cardiolipin peroxidation. This cardiolipin peroxidation will inhibit complex 1 enzyme. Complex 1 enzyme is actually the first largest enzyme in the electron transport chain, okay? And without that working effectively, you cannot generate enough energy. Obesity also will inhibit complex 1 enzyme. So it's like it is a vicious cycle. And not until you try to break this vicious cycle at one point. So if somebody, for example, is taking a lot of food, taking a lot of meal, is generating NADH, NADH is supposed to be converted to NAD plus. But when the complex 1 has already been incapacitated, okay, because the cardiolipin peroxidation had continued unabated because of the absence of glutathione and then incapacitation of the glutathione peroxidase. These vicious cycles becomes very serious, and of course, insulin resistance will come in, and glutathione and the rest. All these conglomeration efforts will ensure that you need to use more insulin, you need to do more, and of course, using more insulin also has a lot of side effects, as you know. Then again, this is another vicious cycle. If you look here closely, up where my pointer is telling us a lot of things that can cause insulin resistance. Okay, that can make a patient wanting to require more and more insulin. And if you look at it again, you will see some of these factors are also are consequences. But let's pay attention to 2 or 3 things there. Oxidative stress. And the good thing about this is that this has just been published this year, 2022, based on experiments that were done by other authors way back in 2020, 2021, and then 2022. So this is really relatively new concept. But let's look at oxidative stress, inflammation. At the molecular level, at the suborganic level, at the subcellular level, the basis of almost every inflammation are free radicals and or the absence or the reduction of glutathione intracellularly. So I look at where is the weakest point in biological system to break a vicious cycle. Just look at the weakest point or the easiest ones for you to break. Oxidative stress, we can manage that. Inflammation, we can manage that. Glucotoxicity, they are about almost resulting. Overweight, we can manage that. So you look at what we can manage and have a reduction of insulin resistance, and then you can prevent a lot of stroke, you can prevent a lot of atherosclerosis, you can prevent a lot of heart attack, you can prevent a lot of end-stage kidney disease, you can prevent a lot of the complications of diabetes. That's exactly what this is telling us. Time will only permit me to look at just one. But ladies and gentlemen, what we have also found out is that almost every complication of diabetes, whether it's a high, whether it's a neural issue, whether it's a kidney, whether it's a muscles, almost all are associated with low level of glutathione. Let's look at the first pathway, the pathogenesis involving polio pathway. What I mean by that is that when there is unsaturation of glucose in the human body, the glucose is first converted to sorbitol, okay? Sorbitol is then converted to fructose. The enzyme converting glucose to sorbitol is aldose reductase. Yes, aldose reductase. The enzyme that converts sorbitol to fructose is sorbitol dehydrogenase. The aldose reductase that converts glucose to sorbitol is dependent on what? NADPH. So this pathway, once accentuated, uses up the NADPH in the human body. And what is the function of NADPH? Okay, the major function of NADPH in the glutathione pathway is that when glutathione scavenges free radicals, instead of becoming a free radical, it combines with one molecule of spent glutathione and form what we call GSSG. Okay, GSSG, that is oxidized glutathione, is converted back to GSH, normal glutathione, through what? The presence of NADPH. NADPH donates an electron to that molecule, and you have reduced glutathione back. But this pathway then uses up the NADPH that is needed to convert spent glutathione back to normal glutathione. You know what that means? It means that it is very unlikely that people living with diabetes will have good level of glutathione level just because of the accentuation of this pathway. The second pathway, time will not permit, but just know that the advanced glycation end products are released into the body. I mean, and then just because the glucose moieties are now oxidized. That is what the problem in that. So let's quickly go on. I'm rounding up now with our work at the University of Lagos. In 2015, we started this work. We wanted to see what, to confirm what, to look at what other authors have done and see, okay, are we getting, why is it that people are getting responses with, the postulation is that, okay, if truly glutathione is able to do all this, can we use a molecule that we have seen that has been shown that the glutathione is able to support glutathione by ingesting this molecule? And we found D-ribose L-cysteine that was invented by Dr. Nagasawa and his team, usable. So we added it to a lot of other singly now, please. Then with in addition to so many other oral hypoglycemic agents, and we published that in 2018. It's available online on toxicological reports, so you can have that. So I won't bother to talk about that. So you can actually have the paper. It's online. But the summary of this paper is that D-ribose L-cysteine was actually able to maintain. In fact, we use it in pregnant diabetic animals. Okay, and we find amazing results which have been published. Okay, and the major thing here is that D-ribose L-cysteine, okay, we suggested that D-ribose L-cysteine should actually be could be an adjunct therapy to other hypoglycemic agents, because it's able to actually prevent a lot of the side effects of hyperglycemia in this our subject. So it's amazing. Now, in concluding the diabetic aspect, we are saying here that glutathione potentiates insulin secretion, okay, and is also able to reduce insulin resistance and impaired glucose tolerance in people having diabetes. In both normal individuals and in type 2 diabetic patients, okay, restoration of redox balance, that's this having more reduced glutathione actually will improve insulin sensitivity. So it will make, what that means is that when you have good levels of intracellular glutathione, you are likely going to use less hypoglycemic agents, you are likely going to use less insulin, okay? And it will also make the beta cells that are producing the insulin actually work better. Changes in this ratio as well, okay? It has been shown that it improves insulin action, based on the molecular dynamics I've explained so far. And some authors also have reached this conclusion that, look, manipulating the glutathione pathway and other related pathway may offer novel options for preventing the occurrence and development of pre-diabetes and diabetes. And like I said earlier, that one of the things we have seen in pre-diabetics, period, is low level of glutathione. So if you find somebody with low levels of glutathione and you are having some levels of insulin resistance, you better be watching it. So you look at the weakest point of any vicious cycle and try to break it. In patients with type 2 diabetes, there is a significant inverse relationship between the free fatty acid concentration. Okay, what this means is that if you have good levels of glutathione, okay, you are likely to have low levels of free fatty acid. Ladies and gentlemen, it is almost impossible for you to lose weight efficiently and effectively without good levels of glutathione, because studies have shown both in mice, in animals, and humans that glutathione controls oxidation of fatty acids by the mitochondria. When the body is deficient in glutathione, less fat is burned. More fat molecules, more fat globules are stored in your body, because your body is not going to ever burn free fatty acid efficiently without good levels of glutathione. And that is why obesity is related to low levels of glutathione as well. In conclusion, there is no substitute for good health, ladies and gentlemen. Health is our greatest possession. We have a duty to procure it. We have a duty to protect it. We have a duty as well to protect it. Our future depends on maintaining a sound mind in a healthy body, because a sound mind in a sick body is definitely a prison for the mind as well. May every one of us enjoy long life and perfect health to match. Ladies and gentlemen, we only have one body. We have to take excellent care of it. You need adequate level of glutathione in all your cells to live optimally and survive in this world. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You can actually make your body not only work and function like a Lamborghini, you can actually make it work like a spacecraft. Thank you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Prof, you have just given us so much value, so much to think about. It's amazing. Thank you so very much. And I know that the health professionals in our audience were just amazed and so happy. And, for those of us who are non-health professionals, yes, some of the science may be a little bit much for us, but here's what we can all understand and appreciate. I think there's no question. You've just shown us how important glutathione is for our health. And not just diabetes, not just obesity, but almost every aspect of human health. It is critical. You told us that, you showed us that. It's very, very clear, even for the non-scientists in the group. And then you also showed us that we have ribosine. And that is 300% more effective than the next best alternative at raising glutathione in the cells. So when you start to understand the power of glutathione and the power of ribosine, which is Max International's patented science exclusive to Max International, now having over 50 peer-reviewed studies, some of which I know you have been contributing to in terms of your research work and your amazing contribution, then you can see we have something incredible on our hands. And so that's what I want us all to take away. When people ask you, how is Max International different? You've just heard it right here. There is no supplement anywhere in the world that has this kind of science and this kind of power behind it. And that is what makes Max International different. Now, I know so many of you have questions. You're all showing your love to Professor Oshinabi in our chat. It's so amazing. And so, wow, I see we've got many of our amazing associates on the line, amazing guests. So I want to, we'll take just a few minutes to answer a few questions. If anyone has any questions, I'll also let you know that Prof and I will be doing another session which will be focused on health and business. It will go into our products, all right, how ribosine is used in our incredible products, and what kind of an opportunity Max International offers to those of you who want to get involved with us. That is going to be next Sunday night at this same time, 9 p.m. East Africa time, 7 p.m. West Africa time. We'll get out the event poster right after this event. But I want to make sure that I can take a few questions. I know some of you have been messaging me privately with questions as well. And so if you've got a question, just type it into the chat. We'll get to as many questions as we can. This presentation is also being recorded. I will see if Prof feels comfortable enough to allow it to be shared. But in the meantime, let's get your questions answered, as many as we can, before we have to close off for the night. So if anyone has a question, you can go ahead and ask it. I know one of the questions that was sent to me was a little bit more enlightenment about the role of glutathione and therefore ribosine in prostate issues and also in autism issues. So maybe you could expand a little bit on that for a moment, Prof. And thank you again, once again, for your amazing presentation.
Yes, thank you. On prostate, it depends on most likely, I'm sure maybe that person is talking about, you can be talking about, there are three major problems, three common problems with prostate. It's either prostatitis or BPH, that's benign prostatic hyperplasia, or cancer of the prostate. I don't really know, but which one the question is referring to. But the important thing here, I'm going to talk generally now. This as much as we know in terms of glutathione, especially as it relates to cancers, generally. I'm not going to, generally for cancers, what you have found out is that in the genesis of cancers, low levels of glutathione have been implicated. There is no doubt about that already. From the cycles I've shown you, from our own work, from the issue with even with telomeres, issue with DNA and things like that. But what is debatable now? That is not debatable as to the cause. What is debatable now is that, okay, if a patient is having cancer of the prostate, do I want to give a glutathione support system? The answer is neither here nor there. If you are a doctor, yeah, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, that we treat patients not as a case, but as a human being. Meaning that if I use it and I'm seeing good response, I will continue. But if I use it and I'm not seeing good response, I will stop it. But if I have a patient that is almost dying rather than me folding my hands, perhaps I may give that person an opportunity to live. And that is what studies have shown us, meaning that it's neither here nor there. But one thing again, studies have shown us, some other studies have shown us clearly that if a patient has dual dichotomized responses to synthetic glutathione and natural glutathione, there are some authors have seen clearly in their own work that look, cancer cells are not able to bio-uptake in sufficient quantity synthetic glutathione. I mean, natural glutathione. Why they will take synthetic glutathione? So in that case, what am I going to do? If I have something like D-ribosine that is naturally made within the body to simulate natural glutathione, perhaps it's going to help that patient. Okay, but the worst in the worst scenario is that look, okay, if I can't make up my mind as a physician, it's okay. Let me stop the product and then let me continue after chemotherapy. But again, a study that I just came out just before this presentation saying that look, using D-ribose, using glutathione support system, we actually protect the cells, the normal cells from the adverse effect. The doctor just came on. We protect the normal cells from the adverse effects of the chemotherapy. So if I don't answer, so what am I going to do? I will probably use it and say, okay, I will be watching closely. If I'm getting good response, I will go ahead. If not, then I can stop it. Then in terms of, what was the other question talking about? And the other question was on, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry, that's my fault. Yes, the other question was on autism. And just before you leave the before you leave the topic of cancer, there was a secondary question, which I think is very important for everyone to understand what our products do and don't do. So there was a question about would our products treat a case of confirmed cancer products? But I want you just to talk for a minute about that. And I love what you said about if you try it, it's working, of course you would continue. But I want you to talk about our products in relation to traditional medications, you know, that they're not a replacement. So maybe just talk for a moment about that, please.
Exactly. Max International has not marketed any of our products as a medical replacement for any treatment. And these products do not negate you or stop you from seeing your doctor. As a matter of fact, I always tell people that you must take it in conjunction with yourself and your medical doctor. Okay. The only area, and I said it even clearly at the meeting in the Endocrine Society, that the one major area we have to be careful is that because glutathione thins the blood, we may not want to use our product, not because it contains glutathione, it doesn't contain glutathione, but because it supports glutathione, okay, in being made. You may not want to use it with warfarin or heparin, because these are also blood thinner. Those are the only areas. Otherwise, I have never seen any interaction with any other. Then concerning the cataract, see, like I said, the minimum of 10 to 11% of the ATP made by the lens, the human lens, is used in making glutathione. That is telling you how important glutathione. So I am saying that I'm not surprised, therefore, that low levels of glutathione has been linked to cataract and glaucoma. I'm not surprised. But that doesn't mean that when your doctor says he wants to remove your cataract, you say, Professor Shinubi has said, no, it's glutathione. No, I've not said that. None of these products, I've just given you what science is saying. You see, I always tell people that science is not about personal opinion. It is not about personal belief. Science is about logics and facts. And then you make up your mind on what you want to do. But it is important to let you know the facts as are today, that look, in terms of development of cataract, in terms of the development of glaucoma, low levels of glutathione has been implicated beyond any reasonable doubt. So if you have cataract, for example, if your doctor says remove it, I think you should, your doctor has seen you, have not seen you. So I will think you should go ahead and do that. But that is not saying that, for example, by the way, these products are not they are not only meant for people who are sick. I have been taking Celgevity Max Switch. I've been taking Max 357 since all the way 2015 May. I can't forget for 7, and it's not because I'm sick. So sometimes you want to have optimal health. Time did not permit me to show you what we call the wellness scale. Wellness scales ranges from 0 to 10. Most people are between 5 and 6. And that is why people can actually move from 5 to 0. That is why some people will sleep healthy. They wake up, they are dead. So if you are working optimally, it doesn't mean that you are okay. So I will encourage you, you still need supplement, okay, to move yourself from 5, 6 to 7 and 9. And that is why I said why do you, if you can make your body work like a spacecraft, why are you use your body to work like a Toyota, for God's sake? So I think you can do better. Thank you.
Great, thank you. A lot of people are asking about, and I think it's really important to note that our Max products are supplements. They are not drugs. They are not medicines. We will always say they do not treat or cure. Okay, and you can become part of the company. You can get your products directly from the company, or you can get your products from the person who introduced you to this event tonight. Now, there's a lot of people who are asking about how do you know that you have the optimal levels of glutathione? Can you measure levels of glutathione? Should you measure levels of glutathione? Now, I'm going to have Prof answer that, but I will tell you, in my 13 years with the company, I have never measured glutathione levels anywhere. All right. I simply have used the products for the last 13 years. I remain healthy. I remain vibrant. I remain, as young as I can possibly be. And I have rarely seen anyone who has ever actually measured their glutathione levels. We simply know that any health challenge is going to be related to low glutathione levels. But Prof, I'll let you chip in a word there.
Yeah, thank you. The simple reason we can measure glutathione in the human body, I have measured it several times, but it doesn't make any sense. And I will tell you, and it's not cost effective. For you to measure your glutathione level, you need minimum of $150 with all the controls that you will need. But see, glutathione, I told you that glutathione, the rate of degradation is almost parallel to the rate of synthesis. As you are making glutathione, it's being degraded. So it means you need to, so it means that you want to be monitoring your glutathione every second, every minute. It doesn't make sense. Your glutathione level, as I came in now, has changed. But in the next 1 hour, in the next minute, it has changed because it is oscillating, and that is why it's not good. But of course, in research, these are things we do routinely, so it's not cost effective. But you can know whether you have low levels of glutathione. Plot that graph, that age, from 20. Draw a graph that is coming from 20 upward. By the time you going almost to 0, by the time you are 80, if nothing is done, and then it has already been done. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Glutathione levels in people who are sick is almost always lower than people who are not sick. In fact, some authors have all gone to further and dividing the patient to 3. We call them the sickest of the sickest, as if sick is not bad enough. We call sickest of the sickest. They are there. Then the sick. Then the little bit they are called outpatient coming out. What you will find in common to all of them is the levels of their glutathione level. So there's no point reinventing it. For me, it's a waste. But if you want to do it, no problem. You can do it. But you see, then you can also know, are you having adequate sleep? Are you having adequate energy levels? Even if you are not having visible symptoms of any disease, You can know by the level of sleep your pattern. If you are not having quality sleep, you are probably having low levels of glutathione. If you are not having good energy, you are probably having low levels of energy. If you cannot focus very well on issues, you are probably having low levels of glutathione. Then, of course, if you're having visible disease, you are probably having low levels of glutathione. Thank you.
And I think that really just sums it up. Any possible health challenge, including insomnia, including energy, including just vitality, but every disease that you can pretty much imagine is going to be associated with low levels of glutathione. You know, all we ever say is just try the products for 90 days, try and see for yourself, and you will generally start to see improvements. Sometimes you will see remarkable improvements, just as Prof has seen in all of the research that he and his team have been doing. They have seen such great results that sometimes they've even had to do the studies twice because they didn't quite believe the first study. And so, you know, the beautiful thing about glutathione and about ribosine is that you don't really have to ask about every single disease state, because you just try and see and you will notice results. Now, I know that we're not going to be able to answer all of your questions. So many of you have more questions, but I promise that we'll have one night of just question and answers with Prof, because I know that so many of you would love to have access to him, and his time is really, really valuable. So maybe we could book an hour one night where we just do, 10-minute overview of glutathione and ribosine, and then the rest will be time for questions, which I think will be great. But we've been going for 90 minutes tonight. And so I would like to bring this session to a close. You've been a wonderful, wonderful group to be part of. Prof, you have been amazing as usual. We're so grateful for everything that you do for us as a community, for everything you do for the medical community at large, and for all of us who want to be healthy at large. So as a reminder, we will hold another special event on Sunday, a week from tomorrow, at this time, 7 p.m. West Africa time, 9 p.m. East Africa time. And at that event, we will be going into the products of Max International, how ribosine is actually delivered to you in products, as well as the business opportunity. Because of course, when you have something that solves a lot of problems in the world, as we do with ribosine, raising glutathione 300% more effectively than anything else in the world, we also have a very significant business opportunity for those who wish. And if you're someone who simply wants to make an impact on people's health, make a contribution to the world, add value to people around you, then join us for that call, because you'll learn a lot. It will be a great education. You can ask your questions. And if you're someone who would love to also have a business that makes a difference for people, we would love to have you join us for that meeting as well. And invite anyone who you think would get value, because the more people that we have sharing the good news about this incredible product, the better off we're all going to be. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Please type your appreciation for Professor Abraham Oshinabi into the call. I know we love him so much. We're so grateful to have him as part of our community. There are amazing people that we have here at Max International, and nobody really more amazing than Prof. So Prof, we thank you, we love you, we appreciate you, and thank you for your wisdom and all of your contribution tonight.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we will see you again in a week's time. Have a wonderful night.
Bye.
Okay, bye.